and start actually sewing on your new machine, let's just quickly review what other items might come with your machine. And what you'll find is that the more basic your machine, the fewer accessories will come with it. But all machines will come with a few things. First of all, you will definitely have a screwdriver like the one we already used to change the needle. This can be used to change the needle, but it can also be used to remove the needle plate from the machine if you have loose threads in there that need to be removed. You will also have some spare needles. So these are standard size needles for most sewing, often called universal needles, and I have a pack of 3 that came with my machine, which means that there's no excuse for me not changing my needle when it gets dull. You will also have a seam ripper. This is sometimes called an unpicker or a stitch ripper, and this is the tool that you use to unpick unwanted stitches. It has a long point that you slide under the stitch, and then in the little gap at the bottom it has a blade. So you slide the unpicker under the stitch and then move it along to the blade where it can cut the thread. For maintenance, you'll also have this brush. Now this brush can be used to clean the machine, and you use it to remove unwanted lint and the buildup of dust that you'll find inside your machine after you've been using it for a little while. Then we have some things related to the thread. So this is often found in many machines. It's an additional spool holder, and this can be used when you want to use more than one thread in your machine. Now obviously as a beginner you're not going to want to do that for some time, so you can ignore that for now, but it's good to know that you have it for later on. You will also have a couple of other spool caps. So you should use the spool cap that relates to the size of the thread that you're using. So for bigger spools, you can use a much bigger spool cap, and for smaller ones, a smaller spool cap. Whichever one seems to fit best for your thread is going to be fine. And if the thread is moving fine through the machine, then don't worry about whether you've got the right size on or not. In addition to the spool caps, you may also have this little disc of felt. This is for threads that are moving too freely through the machine. Maybe because the base of the thread is too smooth, and against the smooth plastic of the machine, it's just spinning a little bit too fast as the thread comes off of it. The felt circle will just give the thread something to hold onto, to grip onto, and mean that it moves more smoothly through the machine. And you put that onto your spool holder before you put your thread on. You'll also have some spare bobbins. Now Nikki mentioned this already, but whatever kind of bobbins your machine comes with are the ones you should use. If you have a metal bobbin in your machine, you should only use metal bobbins. If you have a plastic bobbin in your machine, you should only use plastic bobbins. But make sure that they are also the same diameter and the same depth as the ones that came with your machine. So use the ones that came with your machine as a reference. If you're likely to buy more bobbins and you want to make sure that they don't get mixed up, we like to add a little Sharpie mark to the ones that came with the machine, and that way you'll always know which ones you should be comparing your replacement bobbins to make sure they're the same as the originals. Your machine will also come with some additional feet. Now that's not the case for very basic machines. Some of them only come with the universal presser foot, which we've already been using. But most machines will come with a zipper foot. Now we showed you this when we showed you how to change your presser foot. Some other machine feet that you might get is a clear one, like this one here. This is known as a satin stitch foot, and you use it to use the more decorative stitches on your machine. The clear foot means that you can see the more detailed stitch to make sure that it's being done properly. Then here we have what's called an overcast foot. This can be used in conjunction with the zigzag stitch that Nikki showed you right on the edge of your fabric, and you can use this to finish off your raw edges nicely. The little brush that you find on the foot just prevents the thread from locking right onto the edge of the fabric and pinching it in, and means that it forms nice clean loops over the edge of the fabric. And finally, this foot here is called a stitch in the ditch foot, and it allows you to sew on top of your existing seams. And it has a ski that runs underneath it, which allows you to slide the foot right in the middle of that seam. So you may get some or all of these feet with your new machine. You may have a lot more feet with your machine, but this is probably the most that you would get in a basic sewing machine kit. So have a look through your machine, see what else is in the box, have a good look at your manual to make sure that you're not missing anything else. If the machine comes with those items, chances are they're going to help you do something that's going to make your sewing a lot easier. So making yourself familiar with what's available to you before you start sewing is always a good idea.